Here we have it. It's absolutely awesome to have the Kiwi #1 and newly crowned world #1 in the March rankings. Paul Coll, great to have you with us, mate. And, very, very exciting times for you. This season's been pretty much a dream come true so far.
Yeah, pleasure, man. It's the last sort of 2 weeks since seeing the announcement. It's been pretty special, and it's just capping off a great season and something I didn't think would come true this soon in the season. So it was a real special moment and just huge for me.
When just looking back on your past history with the past world #1s that have achieved, particularly in the men's game, I was looking at some stats, and when you played the World Juniors in 2010, you lost out in the second round of that 3-love to Lucas Cern. And Ali Farag, who you will be supplanting as world #1 in the March rankings, lost in the final of that World Juniors to Ahmed Khalifa. I mean, it's beyond exceptional the way you've come through at 29 years of age to reach the highest peak, as it were, to hit that world #1 spot. I mean, did you think in that World Juniors when you were coming off court with losing 3-love to Lucas Cern that one day you would be world #1 on the PSO World Tour?
Yeah, I mean, a long stretch, it's been a long journey from what you say, and I think it's hard to believe back then that I was going to be, the world #1, especially, like you say, only making it to second round. But, it's quite funny, me and Ali, good friends, and we sort of speak about this and laugh about it, that he didn't even know I was playing the World Juniors back then. So,
amazing.
Yeah, but it's something special, and, it's my journey, and I've loved every moment of it, but I would have to be honest and say back then that I probably didn't believe I would be world #1, but I always had that goal, and it was always there in the back of my mind that that's what I wanted, and just kept training and trying to improve to reach that spot.
And the history of New Zealand squash, Ross Norman, a former world champion, beating Jahangir Khan back in 1986, I think, in Toulouse. Stuart Davenport, former world #2, and then from the women's, it's a really comprehensive resume with Susan Devoy. She reached world #1 firstly back in 1984 and then again in 1992. Lani Joyce in 2001, and Carol Owens, also a world #1 from New Zealand, originally an Aussie. You're making history as the first male New Zealand player to become world #1. What, growing up with having those type of players, and obviously you had your favourites that you were watching, who was like the big inspirations for you from your own backyard, firstly?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the whole Ross Norman beating Jahangir is something quite special. Stu Davenport, I've had a lot to do with. He probably wasn't someone that I initially, looked up to, but he came into my career and he actually mentored me a bit over the past, 3-4 years, which has been huge for me. Obviously, Susan's legacy is just phenomenal within New Zealand. She's such a great lady. What she did with squash and outside of squash as well. So she was a sort of a massive role model for us to look up to. But also, Joelle, when I was coming through, and like you say, I wasn't a great junior, she was, doing some great stuff on the tour already, and just trying to follow into Joelle's footsteps. She was really showing us Kiwis that you can make top 8, top 5 at that time. So she was someone that I sort of looked up to and tried to follow her path. She was doing really well on the tour when I was trying to go pro and stuff like that. So she was probably the one that sort of I could follow the most and see in the same sort of era that I could maybe do what she did.
And you've had to make massive sacrifices, from the part of the world that you come from, just like the Australian players, a move over to originally either the UK or Europe for you. There's some of the players go to the States nowadays, but you haven't seen your family for how long now?
3 years now.
So it's been 3 years since you haven't seen your family. And I mean, does that add into the motivation of the hunger to achieve because of such a sacrifice that you make? It's not like you can just pop round to your mum and dad's and catch up with them after a day's training and stuff. I mean, is that in the back of your mind, thinking I've really got to make the most of this opportunity because I'm leaving literally everything out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I struggled with, to be honest. The start of COVID, I couldn't get home, and it didn't look like there's much time in the future that I was ever going to be able to get home soon. So, and I was really struggling with that, to be honest. I don't think I started playing. I wasn't playing very well, when we first come back from COVID, and that's mainly because of that mental struggle that I was just sort of wanting to go home, couldn't go home. And just speaking to, my mental coach was great at that time. And we sort of talked through that I'm playing squash because I really enjoy it. And there's, if I'm going to sacrifice being away from my family, I might as well make the most of it and just try and enjoy my time on court and not sort of try and think about the negatives of it and use it as a positive, like you say. So it's definitely a motivator for me. I've sacrificed a lot in my life to get here, and it's also about enjoying it for me. Not putting too much pressure on myself. I mean, I'm leaving a lot behind to do this, so what? There's no point in not enjoying it. So that was quite a revelation for me, just in my mindset to enjoy my squash and enjoy competing at the top level, and not sort of just focus too much on results, but actually enjoy the process of winning and losing and improving at the same time.
I mean, you obviously work a lot with your mental coach, Bart. I can't pronounce his surname, so I just always refer to him as Bart, which is a strong name. But if you can say his surname,
Wayne Hoven.
I'm sure you butchered. Yes. I'm sure you butchered his surname as well.
That's my best touch, right?
Yeah. But what you said about kind of enjoying your squash, because it got to a stage where you were moving nicely through the rankings. You were setting in around about 5-6 in the world, and then there was obviously 2 more jumps to make, at least in terms of the quality of your squash, but the mental side of it. I mean, do you think things will change with that pressure now that you've hit? Because you were always chasing the top players like Ali and Mohammed and Tariq before you. So now you're at the top of the tree and they're coming for you. There will be. I mean, you haven't experienced it yet because you won't compete as a world number 1 until pretty much into when you're sitting.
Yeah.
Have you been doing some work on that already, or will you?
Yeah, I think it's amazing, to be honest. It's something I've never had in my career. I've always been chasing, so I think it's amazing to have this pressure and this problem to solve. And to be honest, Qatar tournament, I sort of felt this a little bit. I felt the pressure a little bit from there, and I was speaking to my coach and around my dad a bit and shoot Davenport. And because I was the top seed, Mohammed was the top seed, but he exited early, and all of a sudden I became the person to beat. And I did feel a lot more pressure. Not a lot more pressure, a different type of pressure. And actually, just speaking to a few people like Stu and Bart, and it was actually quite helpful. And I think that tournament there gave me quite a lot of insight into how you can feel that pressure, what I need to do to deal with that. And I think, coming from that tournament, I learned a lot about what I need to do and what it's going to feel like being the guy being chased rather than, chase him. So that was a very good experience for me, and I came out in Canary Wharf and played very well and backed it up in Blackpool. So I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. Like I said, that Qatar tournament was really big for me in that learning process, and I think I learned a lot from it. So feeling good going into the next few months, and just going to enjoy the process and the pressure that comes with it.
Will you have an opportunity to be getting? When do you think you'll next be able to get back to New Zealand?
I'm penciling in July, but things are opening up now.
Games though as well.
Yeah, just before that, so I'll go back. Maybe just before that, I'll see. But my parents are actually looking to come to a few tournaments, which is really nice. Things are opening up in New Zealand, so they can also travel to tournaments. So it'll be great to see them and compete with them. There will be amazing.
And your training, you're renowned for your CrossFit. You're renowned for doing all that which you love. It's a massive passion for you. Since you've been working with Rob and getting more squash specific, you've had to curb a lot of that type of training, or channeling it more into the squash side, saving it for maybe after your career?
Yeah, I've curbed a lot of it, mainly because I'm making the back end of tournaments now, and the physical and mental toll that takes on the body is a lot. So I've had to adapt my training to my schedule. Obviously, when I was exiting earlier in the tournaments were 4 or 5 days shorter, and there wasn't the same mental and physical toll that it would take on your body. So I could still train hard in between tournaments. Whereas now it's, I still train hard, but it's a different focus, especially during the season. Like I said, the tournaments, become 7 to 10 days long. Mentally, you're a little bit tired. So I've sort of focused my training more on, keeping my body in good shape and injury prevention. And I've found a new trainer who's really helped me with that, taught me how to move a lot more efficiently, which I think moves on to the squash court as well. Me and Rob watched a video back of when I played, 4 years ago, and there was just zero efficiency on court. And we think that's something that we've worked really hard on and improved over the last 2 years. So.
Well, I mean, you know what brought you on that went viral originally was that epic rally with James Hallstrop at Canary Wharf, where you're diving here, there, and everywhere, and it obviously looks, and it's very entertaining, but it's not exactly something that you can continue to do. And you've stopped doing it because your squash has got better, but you obviously had a few hard words put on you by Rob with that, because it's it's not really, it's also an injury issue as well, doing that type of kind of extravagant movement.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not economical, I think I used to get tired in most of my matches, and I was speaking to Rob the other day, and I don't know the last time I was actually physically really tired in a squash match, and it's probably been 2 years since I've really been, struggling physically on court. So I think that comes down to the way we've tried to play squash, and how efficiently we've tried to make it on court now. Just the moving and shot selection, and it makes a big difference. He hates it when I dive, and not hates it, but he just thinks that I'm not moving well then.
Yeah.
He always goes back to saying, look, you never seen Junsha dive, and he's one of the best movers that's ever been on a squash court. So that's the way he looks at it, and it makes complete sense to me. And I think it's added a different dimension to my game, and made me probably last longer on court as well. I think just moving a bit more efficiently, not doing those massive lunges and dives everywhere.
Yeah. Just going back to your performance achievements, where you did, probably a few people might slightly forget the fact that you were World Championship finalist in Qatar, where you lost out to Tariq Moment. You also were a Commonwealth Games silver medalist finalist, losing out to James there. So you had a few tastes of the very, very top and the pinnacle, because before becoming world number one, obviously Commonwealth Games gold medalist is massive for you, and world champion is massive. What do you see out of the two? I know Mohammed is very much for the world number one spot because of the consistency of achievement. He said that a lot publicly, and he's been world number one for so many months on and off. Do you see that as a bigger achievement, becoming world number one, than winning a world championship?
I think so, yeah. I was saying to, speaking to Naylor and stuff, when I found out I would be world number one, it was like nothing I've ever experienced from a winning perspective. I think I cried for 30 minutes non-stop. No joke, I just couldn't stop crying. It was a really crazy experience and feeling that overcame me, and I haven't had that from a tournament. It was purely just, and I think that's because I sort of pride myself on consistency. I never want to be just, winning one tournament and then disappearing. So I think that world number one spot to me means a lot, just because of the consistency factor. And I think it takes a lot to get there. And like I said, just the feeling that I had when I got the phone call and spoke to people and got it all confirmed, because I didn't want to just.
So going into the Blackball Open, the last event of the year, did you have an inkling that you would be possibility of going, or did you think you would need to play another tournament?
I wasn't thinking about it at that stage. I was thinking about just winning, because me and Rob have never really spoke much about world number one. It's always been about winning titles and becoming the best player in the world squash wise, and then the rankings will just follow from that. So we didn't really put too much pressure on thinking and calculating what we needed to do to be world number one. It was more just about winning every event we went to, training for that event specifically, rather than getting too caught up in the whole sort of ranking and calculating what we needed to do and stuff like that. So, which I think is a great way to do it. Otherwise, there's a lot more pressure on you. If you're sort of trying to calculate what you need to do, I think you create a lot of pressure. So we just tried to win everything we went into, basically.
I find it fascinating from when we're commentating on all the players, but particularly the scenario. It's got to be mentioned with the achievement that you did at Blackball, which was the first time somebody had won a major tournament in Egypt since Gregory Gaultier winning in Algiers in 2017. And that was actually in Cairo as well. You're obviously winning at the Blackball in Cairo. The crowd very partisan. Again, you seem completely oblivious to all of that. Is that due to your personality and also the work that you do on the mental side with Bart, or is it? What is it? Because it's very apparent on TV. Anyone watching, you can see that there's a couple of claps going on there, and then it's all kind of. You seem to deal with that situation really well. Would you say that's quite a bit of natural to do with your personality, or have you methodically worked on?
I don't know. I never really think about it too much. I mean,
that's probably the key then. You don't.
Yeah.
These interviews are probably a nightmare for you because they make you think about things.
I mean, I hadn't played with a home crowd in God freaking 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't play in New Zealand where my home crowd is. So basically, every match I play is in a way. I mean, I get a lot of support in England, which is why I love playing here so much. In England. But to me, it's it's a challenge, and I love a challenge. And Egypt's been dominating the sport. Credit to them; they've raised the bar of the sport squash. So to go there, it's a real challenge, and it is bloody hard to win there. I'll give you that. Beating back-to-back Egyptians in Egypt on their home soil is tough, and that's the way it should be. I think if we ever get a tournament in New Zealand, I can guarantee you it's going to be tough to come there and
well,
beat
I
you.
hope so. I mean, I hope there's going to be a major tournament there at some point.
Yeah, but it's something. It's actually one of my goals. I didn't care what tournament it was, but it was just to win in Egypt. Because I have a lot of respect for the Egyptian squash players and what they've done for the sport, and winning in their territory was going to be tough, and that's the way I like it. The tougher, the better for me. So yeah.
Well, again, just going into the stats with the world #1 spot, outside of the Egyptians that have dominated with Mohammed Ali Farag, Kareem Abdul-Gawad, Kareem Darwish, you've got Rami Ashur obviously as well. You've only got Nick Matthew and Gregory Gaultier in more recent times that have been non-Egyptian world #1s, and also you would have looked up to them as you were coming through. Particularly Greg, I know that you've got a bit of association with the general, and that's got to be inspiring for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Greg was someone I love to watch and sort of base my game off at the start, and he helped me a lot when I first moved over here, and I was ranked 70, 60 in the world, and I went to Prague a few times and trained with him, and it was invaluable to me just to be around him, just to see the intensity, what it took to be where he was and how good he was. So there's just stuff that I love to look back on in my journey, and it's not always about the titles, but it's always about those little things that you ended up doing and those choices that you made. I think I turned down an exhibition, which was guaranteed money, just to go and spend a week with Greg and train with him and have that experience. So just looking back on things like that, and just the decisions that you make at the time, you think, is this the right decision? But looking back on those small things, I think that's really something cool that you can do when you finally make it. Those decisions really ended up paying off in the long run.
Yeah. We've got we should have some questions coming through from people watching live. We've got a few up here.
Get those glasses on, mate.
I've got to get the glasses on. This is brilliant. We've got one from I don't recognise the name, Mohammed El Shabaghi. I'm not sure who he is, but anyway, he said, "Can you please ask him how he's going to prepare for our practice match when we get to play tomorrow?" Well, he's currently in the gym here, Mohammed, and it's really cold, so I think he's going to get a really stiff back anyway. But, yeah. How do you answer that one?
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably going to go and wake up, around 4 a.m. I'll probably do a couple miles just around Rob's place, and then I'll go do my gym session about 10 o'clock. Probably get on the VersaClimber about 11:30, and then I should be nice and warm for 12 o'clock. So yeah, just a nice 4 hours in the gym and running around outside before that one.
There you go, Mohammed. I'm sure you'll second that, and hopefully you're fit and strong. Looking forward to seeing you compete in Windy City. Although I think he's competing in Washington.
Squash on Fire.
Squash on Fire.
Yeah,
that should be good. That'll be a big return to watch. Return of the Beast. We've got Jamie Kite. How do you look to analyse your performance? Do you use a lot of video data, and do you do this yourself?
Always watch my matches back. Obviously, when you lose, it's very tough. I'm lucky that I've probably got the best analytical coach in the game, if not in the world of sport. So he is very, very good, Rob Owen. He analyzes a lot of my games and will give me a lot of feedback on that. I think he is his brain is in sport. He's obviously, that's what he does. It's a job outside of squash as well. So he analyzes my game. Get a bit emotionally invested into my game and just see the bad things, whereas he sees everything. And so we'll analyze it. He'll have a bit of data. We'll watch the matches.
Bit of what? Sorry,
data.
You mean data? Sorry,
I'm not sure that was the important bit.
Yeah. Anyway, no, it's good. Just because you've got people that might not understand what data is.
Yeah, so we definitely analyze it, and he does most of that, to be honest.
Yeah,
gives me feedback, and then I'll go and watch it and sort of pick up what he's seen as well.
Brilliant, awesome. I hope that was useful for you, Mr. Kite. We've got Suma Al-Luwalia. Did you change your CrossFit style training? Or we kind of did briefly talk about that. So you
basically just volume. I just took the volume down a lot. Intensity is still there. Obviously, squash is an intense sport, and I need to train at that intensity to keep my body primed. But just the amount of volume I was doing has definitely dropped. With my squash tournaments becoming longer, my schedule becoming more busy, and just to look after my body and keep it in good shape for a full season. And
we've got another one here saying, in your opinion, what's the best ever squash match you've ever played?
Blackball was some of my best squash, I think.
Yeah.
The semi-final against Marwan, I think, was one of my best squash performances from start to finish. And the final as well against Ali. I think I started very, very well and carried that through. And he came back at me very strong in the third. And just to be able to hold him off and close it out was something that I didn't always was able to do in the past. So, and I think my squash in those two matches was some of the best it's been. So I'd have to say the Marwan match felt very good, and I think I played a real complete game there. And then the final, obviously, it was a big occasion, and trying to win back to back against Ali, the world number one, and then to do that 3-love was special. Like I said, the 30 he came out very strong at me, and I managed to hold him off and stay strong. So I think those two matches are my best squash matches.
Yeah, that's why. From the way you're on target for what you need to do at Windy City, that's encouraging, considering that the last two matches you played on the PSA.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that says it all for me. I've got another one here. What do you think of the Formula One driver Carlos saying squash technique in his video yesterday, which went?
Well, I'm going to be nice because I'm hoping for a bloody ride in a Ferrari.
Do you like Formula One?
I love it. Yeah. And I actually been messaging his trainer on Instagram since that thing. And it's quite interesting that he was saying that they use a lot of squash for the Formula One racing drivers, or just racing drivers in general, because they see a lot of the same attributes that are needed for both. So they use a lot of squash for fitness training, basically, which I thought was quite interesting. And it's great to see other athletes seeing benefits from squash and the demands that it takes to be fit, and using that for other sports. I think it was great to see, and it was very interesting to speak to him about how they use squash from a fitness perspective for Formula One and racing car drivers.
Yeah, definitely. And in England also, a lot of cricketers back in the day play squash for reactions and general fitness and stuff. So there's a lot of crossovers with sports, and we know Federer likes to play a bit of squash for his tennis as well, which is fantastic. Just going back to your road, what we talked about early on, right in the beginning of the interview, with your junior career, basically, managing to get a second round of World Juniors, but not really showing up. Were you playing a lot of other sports growing up? Because a lot of the guys that had achieved at the top level, your contemporaries, pretty much all of them. I know James Allstrop used to play, and I missed him off on the world number one in that last 10 years outside of the Egyptians. James, Nick, Greg, and yourself outside of the non-Egyptians.
Good save, mate. Good save.
He played a bit of cricket, but it was 99% squash, and the rest of them were all squash focused hugely. Did you play any other sports? Did you play team sports, bit of rugby? What was your background?
Yeah, I played a lot. I played my main three were rugby, hockey, field hockey that is, and then squash. So I played those three right till I was about 15. It was tough. I loved all of them. I was a big rugby fan. Hockey, I was pretty decent at. And then I got offered. I was trying to make the top team in rugby at my school, squash and hockey. And just the commitment became too much, and I was missing trainings, and I didn't feel like I felt like I was missing too much, and not because they were team sports. I couldn't give my all to those sports, and I had to make a decision on what I preferred. And at the time as well, I got selected for the New Zealand team to potentially go to the World Juniors in Ecuador. And for me, representing my country is everything. And that sort of just shifted all of my focus to squash. And, from then I started training twice a day, before school, after school, just squash.
What age were you doing twice a day?
So 15, 16. I stopped all my other sports at 15. And
you were doing 2 sessions a day as a teenager?
Yeah, Anthony Ricketts was my coach. So,
yeah.
I had, court sprints, 300s in the morning, gym sessions in the morning, then squash after school. So it was intense, but I put it down to some of those sessions has helped me through my whole career. And I was bloody tough at the time. I just remember hating 90% of what we did, but I think that's what made me quite mentally strong, and has pushed me through my career to sort of keep improving.
So 15, kind of 16 years of age, the 2 sessions a day, all the way through to now 29 hitting that.
Yeah, that's when I just stopped all my other sports. So I just had a lot more time to commit to squash, and that's when I really started to improve. I think 16, 17, 18.
And you made the move to Europe at what age?
About 21. I played the tour in New Zealand and Australia, did the sort of Australasian circuit for a couple of years. And
so the move was still a little bit later on, really?
Yeah, I waited until I started winning a lot of those events, those 5Ks, 10Ks, and once I started winning those back home, then I moved over to Europe, which was a huge move and something that was very tough for me, moving away from my family for so far, having not much money. My parents basically paid for me to go around the world, so it was tough, some very dark times there, but again, it was a big learning experience and something that I look back on now on my journey that I'm quite proud of, and something that I stuck to and managed to do it, because I didn't always see this in the future. It was tough at times, so it's something I'm very proud of, and it's those times that I like to look back on.
Right, just finish off with a couple more questions. We've got William Buckingham, known as Wild Bill. He was loose on the microphone in the Houston Open, which was an interesting one. You've had your biggest win since in-game coaching has been banned due to COVID. Is in-game coaching overrated? That's an unbelievable. I'm sure that probably came from Conor O'Malley. I don't think Bill actually thought about that. Anyway, thanks for that, Bill.
I mean, to be honest, when in-game coaching is back, I'm probably going to take my coach to events, because I think it's something that is very important, especially when the events go, you go away for 10 days and they become a bit longer. It's nice to have someone at the back end of events just to talk to and get out of your own head, because it can be, mentally you can sort of start overthinking things, and it's nice just to have someone to balance you out and bounce your thoughts off and just travel with. So
will it be Rob? I mean, you've got all the players these days talk about their team and the entourage of people that they have. Will it always just be one person, or depends who's available? Do you have trouble with Bart before as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think Bart's planning on coming to Chicago. I don't know if there's, but it's just different because Rob obviously will has benefits coaching me during games. Whereas if we can see people outside of squash, then it also has its benefit. But I've got a really good physio that I like to take to events. Rob will be the first one. Obviously, he's a busy man. But if I can get him to events, I think it would be great for me. And then I also have my other team. But I think it depends. If it's been a long season, I might take my physio. If the event's very long, I'll take a physio. And then my mental coach as well, if it calls for it. So I think each event as it things, and how I'm feeling personally, and what I'm feeling I need during that tournament. But I do like it. I don't think it's overrated. I think it's very helpful to have someone in your corner for sure.
Yeah. What treatments you like to explore that side of things? You're very strict with your diet. Are you now fully fledged vegan, or
just a couple of years now? Fully fish, yeah.
Sure, I saw you eating a steak in one of the I'm not sure I did. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. But what out of all the treatments, general massage, acupuncture, what myofascial release, all these things, do you have a physio that can basically do all those?
I've got a physio in America and I've got some in Holland as well for my day-to-day stuff. I find dry needling, like acupuncture, the best. It's probably the only thing that I really find releases my muscles instantly. The other things, you have to have 4 or 5 massages to really just release the knots. So I think that dry needling is something that has helped me massively, and it's the only thing that really gets deep enough into my muscles
to get an immediate
to get that immediate release. And I think it's changed a lot of problems that I've had. But then, my physio that I work with now, he's all about me fixing my body as well. So he gives me exercises, and that's why I've changed a lot in my gym programs, is to be
more remedial.
More just moving correctly. Maybe dropping the weights, but keeping my posture and using the correct muscles here and there to fix my body and what muscles get sore.
So where would you have had issues before? Where were your issues that you would have? Because I'm fascinated with all the work you've done.
My hips were way too tight, my glutes, but that was coming because my quads were over dominant.
I find it amazing when you say they're so tight, because I mean you literally have done splits in the jazz.
Yeah, but then just lying in bed, they'd be aching for the next,
really,
you know, and remember the Qatar match against Tarek, both my quads cramped.
Yeah.
The match against Simon and Canary Wharf, my quads started cramping
because they're overworking.
Just because I was taking too much of the workload, and that's something that that my physio, and that's basically what sold me on. He just seen something that no one else had told me before, and he said that if we can engage your your proper muscles, your glutes, hamstrings, as well as your quads, then you're going to gain 30-40% just more efficiency and fitness, which I felt as well. That's something we focused on the first lockdown. We couldn't get on the squash court, so I just did that twice a day, and I seen massive improvements. So it was very key and helpful to stop me getting injured, and like I said, just using proper muscles as well, and not cramping in those areas.
And veering away from the intense squash talk, what do you like to do in your downtime? What hobbies and stuff? Surely you've got to switch off and chill out and relax.
I struggle to switch off. I'm a massive golfer, so any rest day I have, I'll be on the golf course. Even if I have half a rest day, the afternoon I'll go to the golf course. So playing 2-3 times a week, I go to the driving range in between sessions. So some of my days are just non-stop from when I start to when I finish. But I love it. I struggle to switch, sit down and switch off for a whole day. But getting outside on the golf course, it's sort of, turn my phone off or leave my phone in my bag and just get outside in nature and play with my mates, and it's great fun just to turn my brain off basically and get away from the world a bit.
And do you have a social sometimes, a bit of a celebration, a bit of the old beverages and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I love to go to Belgium as well with Nayla's family. We go there for a weekend and switch off, have a few drinks, play some games, and it's great just to reset. It's a bit of a home for me there, and very close to the family. So since I can't get home to New Zealand, there's somewhere I like to go and relax, have a few drinks, and play a few games.
Awesome. Okay, Paul, this has been a real pleasure. I hope everyone that's been watching it live, and this will also go out on Squash TV, have enjoyed it, and wish you the best of luck in your practice match with Mohammed Al-Shabagi tomorrow, but also in the next massive event and the Windy City in Chicago at the end of February, beginning of March. Thank you, Paul.
And thanks for everyone for your support. Love all your messages. Keep it up. Thank you very much.